All right, cool. We got some friends on. Nice. Alrighty. Now I need to slide back over here and then, okay, cool. We are good to rock. So,
All right.
now that all the technology stuff is done, love it. Okay, cool. So, Kaitlin, obviously, you know the drill. We're gonna run through. I feel like it's been a hot minute since we've done an interview together, but we'll keep
Yeah.
things like casual. I'll appreciate you guys on here. And Kaitlin, if you want to go ahead and just share a little bit of a brief introduction about Foxbell Weddings, how you got to where you are today, and tell us a little bit of an intro, and then we'll jump into the questions here.
Yeah, perfect. So, hey guys, it's so great to meet you all. I'm Kaitlin. I'm the owner of Foxbell Weddings. I specialize in intentional, refined, timeless, and romantic wedding photography. I'm based out of DFW, but I do travel all over the place for weddings, which is so fun. I would definitely consider myself to be like a luxury heirloom wedding photographer. So I focus on documenting like each and every wedding and session with intention to preserve those memories for decades to come. So I also do focus on like albums and prints and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been doing wedding photography, or well, I've been doing photography in general for about 8 years, but weddings in particular for almost 5. And then I've been full-time with my wedding photography business for about 2.5 years. And it's been a wild ride, but it's been so fun. So full-time
Love
now.
it. Love it. And crushing the game. I mean, I often brag to people and use you as an example of just like, because people say, oh, well, I need to wait this amount of time or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think so. And I'll often mention your name because I'm just like, man, the amount of growth in such a short amount of time is absolutely insane to me to think back. Like, I think I was telling Abigail a little bit about like some of your job, like how you're working part-time doing bartending. And like Abigail's like, what? I thought she'd been full-time for so long. I'm like, it hasn't been that long.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, it honestly, with the work that I've put in, it just feels like I've done it for so long, you know. But I mean, in reality, it's been about 2.5 years. But I mean, after going through your program, it was about 6 months or so, maybe a year.
mhm.
When I, or well, no, it was about 6 months whenever I started going to become full time, and then like really getting things going about a year later. So it was like super quick after your program. So it was super fast, but it's been amazing.
100%. And what do you think? I'm just curious here. What do you think the biggest change happened for you where you were like, you know what? I feel like I'm ready to go from part-time to full-time. Like, was there a certain like switch in you? Was it something else in your business that you're just like, oh, this is, how I'm able to make that jump? Because a lot of people are quite scared to make
Yeah.
that, even though they want to, like, there's often a fear. Like, what's kind of your thoughts on that for how that worked for your business?
Yeah, I think it just came down to a just like personally what I wanted out of life. And I mean,
Mhm.
just kind of a little side note, whenever I was in college, I think I changed my major like 5 different times because I just never really knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. It kind of freaked me out, like committing to something and, like doing a regular job and then waking up at 70 years old and like, oh, I don't like what I did for my life. So it really did take some reflection on what I actually wanted out of life. Did I want to own my own business or did I want to work for somebody else? And honestly, it just came down to I would rather put in the work and do my own business and do my own thing and be free and set my own schedule than to work for somebody else and have somebody else tell me what I'm going to do. Right. Like I'd rather tell myself to do what I'm supposed to do and have like the limit of or have no limit for finance, like how much I can earn and what I can do in the field and stuff like that. So it just came down personally, like, hey, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to be a bartender for the rest of my life, even though it was really fun. I
Mhm.
want to, I want to own my own business and work for myself. So
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. I think like it's, yeah, like you said, personal preference, because sometimes people are like, hey, I don't want to make that jump. Like that's not my thing. I want to keep it. But like you were in a position where you're like, I definitely want to make that jump. I remember the first time we spoke, you were like, yeah, like I definitely, this is my thing. I want this to be my sole income for, your life basically. Because you're like, I don't want to wake up and be like, I actually hated my job. Like that wasn't your
yeah,
thing.
yeah, like I have to be at work at 8 a.m. or whatever, work like an 8 to 5 job. That just was not, that wasn't for me. So
No,
yeah.
no, totally. And I mean, obviously with owning a business, would you say, because it gives you the flexibility, and oftentimes I think there's almost this misunderstanding of like, sweet, don't have to go to work. Like, business owners get to just like sleep in all the time, go out for happy hour. Like, what's your thoughts on that when it comes to what that lifestyle looks like for you with owning a business?
Right. So I think that is a common misconception for having your own business. I mean, there are days where, like, I know that you put in 12, 16-hour days, and same here. Sometimes I'll put in a 12-hour day, if not more. And that's obviously really different from having a job where it requires you to work a certain number of hours. And so I feel like I have just been able to kind of reap the reward of all of my hard work that I've put in the last handful of years. Because it's definitely not that way where you get to go enjoy and have happy hour, or you get to go and do this and go and do that. It's definitely not like that whenever you first start out. Like, there's so much work that has to be put into building your business up to that point where you have the flexibility of saying, hey, I want to go out, for happy hour. I want to take the afternoon off and go shopping or something like that. So I feel like it has taken a lot of work just to recently, maybe like in the last 6 months, to be able to kind of enjoy that freedom, but also like learning how to set boundaries to enjoy freedom as well outside of like work hours, if that makes sense. So like being on top of putting together a work schedule for yourself. And yes, you may work overtime, you may work outside of that, and that's totally normal. But having that like work-life balance is definitely going to help you with that freedom aspect, and then to potentially work yourself up to maybe taking half a day off every now and then and not having to worry about it,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And I think it's good just to have a little bit of insight there, and what's worked well for you. And like you said, making those boundaries and making sure that that's what's going to work well for you. So no, I love that. I think that's good just to have the awareness out there of what, the realistic expectations are for that. So
Yeah.
no, totally. And so kind of just shifting gears a little bit, a lot of times when, I'm chatting with different photographers and things like that, oftentimes I'll, name drop you, and people are often asking like, okay, like, who's Kaitlin? I know you said she's a support coach. And I feel like I probably just need to like share a little bit more on Facebook in general and in my group, and be like, introducing you and kind of, and that, but obviously you've been on the team for a few years now. So I'm curious, can you share a little bit about what your perspective just on coaching in general, why you decided to be a coach? And I'd love to hear just a little bit around that, because I get a lot of questions about you, and I'm like, let's just get her on and
Yeah.
hear straight from you. So basically that's kind of the idea here, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So why I decided to be a coach. So for those of you that don't know, I did go through Esther's coaching program as a student almost 3 years ago. And like literally, I'm not even exaggerating or being dramatic. It was so transformative for my life. I mean, extremely transformative, to the point where the opportunity came to be a support coach for you. And I'm like, I'm on board, because this program has been, I believe in the program, I believe in the practices and the process that we have our photographers go through. And so many photographers find success with it. And so like why I wanted to do that was having that success on my own, and kind of like being in a position where I've had failures, I've had mistakes, but I've also had so many successes. And I wanted to have an opportunity to share that with other photographers and have them grow. So I am definitely the kind of person that is community over competition any day of the week. And because there's plenty of work to go around, and I would rather support my fellow photographer than compete against them. And so like with having the knowledge and the ability to help somebody scale their business, why would I not take that opportunity? So I love meeting new people. I love meeting all of our photographers that come through the program, and just getting to know them, know their business, know their goals, and then also having the tools in my toolbox to be able to help them reach their goals and to crush it and to become full time. So I just love it. It's been such an amazing ride.
Yeah, amazing. No, that's great to hear. And I mean, like, obviously you've helped a lot of people. I know oftentimes I'll intentionally match you up with people that are in the States. Most of the photographers that we work with, I mean, we've done over 50 now, about 52. And I would say, I gotta look at the spreadsheet, but about like 80% are American photographers. So to
Yeah.
me, it almost naturally made sense because I oftentimes get questions about, American taxes and different things like that. And I'm like, whoa, let's, connect you up with Kaitlin because she's going to be a better resource for some aspects in that. So oftentimes I'll match you up with American photographers. And I mean, I'd love to hear from you a few that just wins that you've been like super proud of from some of the photographers you've helped. So obviously you've helped a ton of photographers. What are some of the like top things that stand out to you that you're like, proud mom moment, proud coach moment type deal?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we do in this program is really helping you as a photographer, hone in on the business development side. So kind of like the backbone of your business. And I really do feel like a lot of photographers push that aside. They're like, I'll figure it out later. I'll figure it out as I go. And
Mhm.
one thing that they don't understand is like having that backbone is what's going to like, propel you forward.
Yeah.
So like I love like having the pricing guide. Pricing guide is like one of the biggest thing that kind of transformed me when I was a student, and now has like a lot of the photographers that have come to the program, they're like, what is a pricing guide? What am I supposed to do with that, you know?
Mhm.
So like the pricing guide is a huge thing because it kind of sets the tone for, how you're gonna do your business financially.
Mhm.
And so pricing guide was awesome. I love the brand identity. A lot of photographers figure out like what they want their brand identity to be in their business and as well as themselves. So
Mhm.
that's super fun to see kind of form together. And
Yep.
then also just helping with workflow, because I have found that a lot of photographers don't know how to put together workflows or like what they should be doing here at this point in the process or what they should be doing here, the emails they should be sending. And so really kind of helping them hone in on crafting the perfect workflow that works for their business has been, it's amazing because in a workflow, like I'm such an organized person. And so when
Mhm.
I'm like, when I see them being organized on their end, I'm like, you go, like that's amazing. I love organization. So yeah, those are just a few things that I've seen from students that just really, I'm like, yes, I love it. We love it.
100%. And I think I would say you're even more organized than me. And like I love my spreadsheets. I love things to be, all tidy on Google Drive and have systems set up because that's just like super, super important. But I think you're even next level beyond that. It's like everything is like very, and I can tell even just by the way, on your TikTok how you set up your house and different things like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not just Caitlin's business. She's just
Yeah. I'm just
very
like
like
that person. Yeah.
yeah, everything in its place. And I think that obviously has created a ton of success in your business is because you have all this stuff set up and it works really well and your clients clearly love it.
Yeah, yeah. And also too, like organization is like a really big thing for me. And I just love like seeing photographers implement organization because it's like a strategy. We're gonna like a strategy to hit your goals, so
100%.
love it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm right there with you. I'm like, even just talking about it gets me pretty hyped. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, I could probably like update some things with my workflow right now, which
Yeah.
is kind of a nerd thing to do, but it is definitely great because even obviously at this point, like I still would say, even though it's been I guess yeah over 6 years now, but I'm still always wanting to refine my workflow. I feel like sometimes I'll get different questions and whatnot, or I'll change something about my business, and I'm like, I want to update that. So it's like you can continuously be like refining it, which is always so fun.
Yeah, which is, totally fine because as photographers in our businesses, we're always growing, we're always evolving. And it's like, one moment you may think like this is the great thing, but then no, this is better. Like we're always fine tuning things and there's nothing wrong with that. So
100%. No, I love how you put that. I think, yeah, it's a healthy thing to do, right? Is just make sure that, okay, is this working for me? And if there is something that's not, it's like, what can I do to update it and make it better? So yeah, no, that's awesome. And so I'm curious, you shared, why you decided to be a support coach when the opportunity came up. And I would love to hear, if we even, backtrack to 2021, you joined in October, like what was kind of going through your mind at that time of why you decided for you personally to join a coaching program? What was kind of your thoughts there?
right. So I think at that point in time, I had just graduated college a year prior to that. I
Mhm.
did minor in photography. So I was like trying to figure out, like, yes, I want to do photography, but how do I get to that full-time position of my photography business? And
Yeah.
so I think there was just a lot of unknowns for me. And I just kind of was in a position. I remember telling you on our intro call, I was like, I feel like I've tried everything. Like I'm posting on Instagram, I'm doing this in Facebook groups, like I'm doing this and that, I'm doing free shoots, I'm whatever. And so, so I remember telling you that on our call, and you're like, okay, let's do it. I'm going to dive into your business. We're going to get you figured out, and we're going to get you where you need to be. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, every single call, it was something new, and you were keeping me accountable, and I was doing the thing every time. So I felt like I was just at a point where I just wanted this so badly that I just didn't know how to do it. And I felt like I had tried everything, which come to find out I had not, obviously. But yeah, and I remember being in part of your Facebook group, and I think you popped up on my feed one day, said you were saying something about like a discovery call. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through her Facebook group and I'm going to check her out. And so like I read some testimonials and kind of did my little research and booked a discovery call. And I was like, our energy and our personalities just matched so well. You were so hyped up and like so ready to get me to my goals. I was like, girl, say less. Like I'm there. Like I already know you're gonna get me where I need to be, and you did. So that was kind of like the determining factor for me. Was I just felt like I was doing everything and I didn't know what to do next. So
Right. Of kind of what's gonna be that next step for you, when you felt like, okay, I've tried a lot of different methods, and to you, like, that's oftentimes the case. Is people say, like, I've tried everything, and I'm kind of like, I don't, I oftentimes will even say on that first call, like, well, I beg to differ kind of thing. And
yeah,
oftentimes challenge that, because I'm like, even if you, maybe you're at a point where you think that you have, oftentimes there's still like a million different avenues, that you can go through and see what's gonna work. Cause it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. It's not really this cookie cutter, like, oh, this is all you have to do. It's like, no, like, here's some different strategies. Let's see what's going to work. Because it has to be tailored to each person and what's going to be sustainable. I can't say, you have to do these 10 different things, because you might say, well, no, you know what, this one, not for me. So, yeah. So, okay. No, I love that. That totally makes sense. And I definitely remember, even though it was 3 years ago, I remember first chatting with you, which was, so fun, because I'm like, we didn't know each other, but it was like this like click of vibe of like, okay, you know what? We clearly think similarly, and like you were, equally as hyped up of just like, I want to do this. Like, this is, what you had already set your heart on. Is like, you had minored in photography, and you're like, this is the route for me. So
right. Yep, absolutely.
no. And so I'm curious, kind of two things here. First one being, what was kind of the workload like? Was it, did you feel like it was, quite intense of things you had to implement? Did you feel like it kind of pushed you out of your comfort zone of strategies maybe you wouldn't have been as comfortable with? Or like, what was that journey like? And then we'll get into what it's like working with you on the other end of you coaching people.
Right. So I do feel like I'm not gonna lie. It was definitely like the time in my life was very overwhelming. I'm not gonna say like the entire program itself was super overwhelming to the point where I couldn't do it or keep up with it. But also I was doing like a full-time job. I was actually doing 2 jobs at the time, and also going through the program, like a very intense program. And so it was a very overwhelming time, having a lot of different things pull at me. But yeah, I mean, I did it. I did the thing, it was so worth it. It was worth every late night, early morning. So what was your second question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, all good. Just like, what's it like, for now that you're on the other end of things, what is it like for people working with you one-on-one? What's kind of that look like?
Okay, so working with me one-on-one, I'm very much like Esther as far as like being super hyped, super joyful, and just ready to go, because I want you to crush your goals just as much as the next person. So like every single time we get on a call, I always start off everything with a win. Like, we're gonna start off on positive vibes only. Whether it's a small win or a big win, we celebrate all kinds of photography wins over here. And so we also do like checkups and homework, and we also do have like a discussion that we talk about every single call. But also too, it's a very conversational, very open-ended. So even though you are receiving instruction, you are receiving coaching for different topics and stuff, you are absolutely able to ask all kinds of questions. And if you have any concerns or anything that you are struggling with, or that you need more help with, we can definitely kind of, change course and go to where you need that help for sure. So I'm definitely like, listen to you and listen to the struggles that you're having. If you're trying this method and it's not working, let's try this one kind of thing. So it's very much like open-ended back and forth. Very involved is what I would have to say too, but also positive all the way around.
Yeah,
So
100%. I mean, how can it not when they're working with you? I feel like you're the most like bubbly person ever. Like it's
I,
just
I try to be, I do, so.
100%. I remember you even sharing on one of our group calls before, you were like saying how when it comes to your social media and your branding and how you run that, I remember you even saying that like before you post a story or a reel or a post or whatever, anything, you're like, before I do that, I think like, is this positive? Because you said like, I don't want any, oftentimes we'll see people like photographers, even oftentimes will post something of like, I hate when clients do this. I hate this. And I remember you were just calling it out and saying like, hey, some people are going to do that. You're like, I don't want to slander that, but you're like, that's not for me. You're like Foxbell Weddings. You're like, we want to stick to like positive. And I think that's really cool that you carry that across the board of just like, hey, whether you're working with your, clients, like your wedding clients or with your coaching clients, you're like, I just want to keep things positive. And that seems to, obviously be your personality, but also you want it to shine through in your brand, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I have noticed, and not just like in photography, just in my personal life, is that positivity is very contagious. So if you have a negative attitude, it's going to follow you around all the time. But being positive, that's really going to like transcend to people as well. So like if you're positive, there's a good chance that somebody else is going to feel positive from your positivity. So why not just be positive and kind, right?
Yeah.
So
100%. No, it's so true. It is contagious because you'll even notice sometimes if you're talking to somebody and you're, they'll oftentimes without even realizing it match that, level
you
of
can
like
match the
happiness and
energy.
positivity. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no, that's awesome. And what would you kind of say? So you shared a little bit of like why you decided to step into the support coach role. I'm curious, like, what would you say? Obviously, there's a main why behind everyone with whether you're running a business or you're in a particular role. So I'm curious, you as a support coach working with other photographers, based in the States, what's your biggest why behind that role?
So I think it just comes down to having been in their position and
Right.
knowing that like what it felt like having the heart, having the skill, having the dedication, motivation, whatever, to want to change to be full-time, like knowing how that feels from
Yeah.
their perspective and
Mhm.
being in a position to be able to help them get to that point, right?
Right.
So I think it does come to that, is like, I know exactly what you're going through. Let me help you get there.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Totally makes sense. You're like, hey, been there, I get it. And
yeah,
that's why you like to help through that journey because you're like, hey, I get it. That
yeah,
was,
like we've walked the walk, like learn from us, right? Let us
yeah.
tell you what to do to get there. So
Totally,
yeah,
totally. You're like, hey, that was me 3 years ago. Like I know what it's like to have that feeling of like, I feel kind of stuck right now.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, okay. No, that totally makes sense. And I know when you at least like I would say definitely because you said, even when you're in the program, it was like overwhelming time in your life and different things like that. And I remember one thing we worked with you on was, okay, what is going to be best when it comes down to time management? And obviously, this is something that I'm putting together even a few resources with this. People have been asking me, and I'm like, I think you are like the queen of time management. Even though you're not, in a position in your life where you're working these three jobs, you're still, hustling and grinding it out constantly. Like your days are super packed. You have lots of clients to serve. Your business keeps growing. What's kind of your advice that when it comes down to time management as a small business owner, whether people have other jobs they're working, or maybe they're a parent or their business is just really taking off and they're feeling stressed? Like, what's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so time management is something that I have struggled with from the get-go. It is definitely not easy, and it's probably going to be something that you have to fine-tune as you go through and as your business scales. Honestly, my biggest tip is just sitting down and evaluating everything that you have pulling at you. So, and there's only so many hours in the day. So how are we going to allot our time, and how are we going to give 100% to each and every avenue of our lives, right? So if we have a 9 to 5 job, okay, we have a 9 to 5 job. How are we going to be able to do any kind of photography for that day? Do I need to do it in the morning? Do I need to do it in the evening? What does that look like for you? Is that an everyday thing? Is that a 3 time a week thing? So I think it's like whatever is your biggest priority as far as like time, like whatever takes the most time, like figuring out how you can squeeze everything in and still give 110% to everything that you do without feeling overwhelmed. And honestly, if you have a goal of wanting to work 9 to 5, like for me, I end at like 5 to 6 p.m. every single day, and I force myself to quit. I'm not always the best at that, but I force myself to quit at like 5 or 6 p.m. That way I can focus on other things and I can be present, with my husband or in my house, whatever. And that has really changed the game for me, just having those set hours to do my work. And honestly, whatever I don't get done in those hours, I put it on my to-do list for the next day. And it just kind of rolls over, and you leave your work with your work. Like you don't carry that in, and you don't feel like you have to stay up till midnight or 1 o'clock every single day to get things done. So that's just kind of something like mentally I've had to work through, is like telling myself, you need to stop, focus on other things. But because honestly, when you get into the rhythm of your business growing, it is very difficult to say, okay, I need to focus on other things, right? But putting yourself on a schedule is going to be the biggest tip that I have for you, because routine is going to help you stick to your priorities, which will ultimately help you meet your goals in the end. So
Yeah, 100%. And do you normally like do kind of the same tasks every single day, or what does that like? What do you think for your own productivity? Because I know oftentimes we wear, a million different hats. So like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so a lot of times I do similar steps throughout the day. So like I'll start every single morning with checking my emails, because if there's any inquiries that came in over the night, I want that to be one of the first things that I respond to in the morning. So I will answer all of my emails, and then if there's anything that I have to do as far as like album designs, I'll take care of those. I'm also trying to work in a schedule of editing, so I'm not having to edit every single day, because right now I'm kind of in the thick of it after having gone through our first wedding season, so I'm editing every single day. But so I would ultimately like to have a schedule for days that I'm editing throughout the week. But I also do all of my admin on Mondays. So that's going through and doing my bookkeeping, kind of checking up on my bookings and my taxes and all kinds of stuff. I do that every single Monday. But yeah, most of the time it's like pretty much every single day. So, and then I do a lot of the same things. So
Yeah. So it's a lot of routine, but like Mondays, you definitely like admin on there, and you're trying to basically make sure that you're not just editing every single day, because we all know that's just the biggest time sucker.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, totally. Okay, no, that sounds good. And is there any tasks that you personally are like, I don't touch, but I have somebody else help me with that?
So right now I am doing, I'm actually going to be outsourcing a lot of my social media, which is a big step for me. So that's going to be fun to have somebody manage like my Instagram and Pinterest and stuff like that. Now I have recently started outsourcing my editing. So I do AI editing now, which has definitely saved me a lot of time. Then I just got to go through and refine my galleries from there.
Right.
And then, but I think those are like the only things that I outsource as of now. But I am looking into wanting to outsource some other things as time goes on. So
Right. Yeah. And as you grow, and then you can focus more like on the business, rather than you just running around doing a bunch of things.
yes. Oh, and I also do, I totally forgot. I also do, I have an associate team now. So I built an associate team to where I can outsource like double bookings or just weddings that I'm not able to attend. I have that going too. So I kind of forgot about my associate team there for a second, but
That's awesome.
yeah.
And that was recent, right? I'm trying to remember when you started that.
Yeah, it's been, I started doing that, like really, really implementing that about 6 months ago or so, maybe 8 months ago is when I kind of started that.
Okay.
And it kind of went off. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I remember you like bringing up the idea of it, and us, talking through it a little while ago, and I was like, I feel like that was like recent though ish, that things started really taking off. So that's amazing.
yeah, it's been, it was a really little bit of a rough time, like trying to build up the team and everything. That's a little rough, but it's been fun because I've been able to book some extra weddings because of it. So
100%. Yeah. And I think the really, really cool part with that is that you have such a strong brand. People are trusting not just you, Kaitlin, personally, but somebody else. I remember the first time that I got one of those bookings, I was like, this is so cool. It's not even me. Like, this is
yeah,
just like so much trust, right? Like,
yeah,
it's huge.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's super cool. Okay. Love it. I won't take too much more of your time here, but I am curious. I know that you do a really, really fantastic job on Instagram. You get like, remind me, I think your inquiries for a while, like 80, 90%, something like that. Is that
Yep.
still kind of accurate from last time we
Yeah.
discussed that?
It's more so like 85%. I've been building up some vendor relationships, and I've actually gotten a lot of inquiries and bookings by, being being a preferred vendor at venues and like kind of having connections with some planners. So having that being built up, it's more like 80 to 85% on Instagram. But a lot of people still do find me on Instagram and book me through that. So
100%. That's still like huge.
yeah,
8 out of 10 weddings are booking you because of
because
Instagram.
Instagram.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even really say that, like, it's not like every time I go on Instagram that's like, wow, like there's like a million posts from Kaitlin. Like you're, not even, I wouldn't even say you're really glued to Instagram. I think oftentimes people think you have to be, just overloading and all this stuff. But I think you do a really fantastic job of just like, you are so good at posting what you want to attract. You're so good at your stories. Like, what advice would you leave with people that are like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I want to get a lot more inquiries from Instagram, just like Kaitlin. Like, what's kind of your advice there?
So anything that you do social media wise is going to take you a little bit to build up your reputation, your algorithm, consistency, stuff like that. But
Mhm.
so my number one tip is just be patient and figure out a consistent schedule or like consistent things that you do on Instagram and do those consistently for 6 months or something like that, and you will see a tremendous amount of growth and engagement and inquiries and bookings from just doing those things. So if posting a certain number of times per week and maybe doing one of those as a reel, and then always posting multiple photos whenever you post a singular post, because that's what's going to get your post to like have a lot of engagement and everything like that, instead of just like doing one photo. And then just also being interactive in your stories and posting 45 stories a day, if possible, and then just interacting with other people's content, because how would you expect people to interact with your content if you're not interacting with other people's content? So you need to be like a good steward, of Instagram, and just kind of take 30 minutes every day, go through, like some posts, interact, comment, share, stuff like that, because that really does boost like your algorithm and your Instagram page. So
Yeah.
but yeah, just like kind of sit down and figure out what your goals are for Instagram, figure out a consistent schedule that works for you, and do that schedule for 6 months. I know that sounds like a long time, but do it for 6 months and you will be blown away at how your Instagram completely transforms.
I love that. I think like that's so cool too, because I would say even like myself getting a bit called out right now, like I don't spend nearly enough time actually giving back and like engaging and whatnot. Like I feel like I'll often tell people that like you got to give more than you're taking and all this stuff. And then I'm like, crap, just as you're saying that, I'm like, I don't do a good job of that. I used to be, quite good at it, but I don't. Like oftentimes I won't even really scroll. I'm just like, I'll tap through maybe like 2 or 3 stories and I'm like, I'm done, and like chuck my phone, and then I'll go and post a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I'm expecting people to engage, even though I'm giving oftentimes nothing.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, because the last thing that you want is for somebody to interact with all of your posts, and then they recognize and realize that you're not interacting with their posts. So then they're gonna get mad or whatever, and they're not gonna interact with yours because you don't, return the favor for them. So I mean,
Yeah.
it can kind of go both ways on that. But I mean, just try your best to be interactive and engage as much as possible.
Totally. No, I think that's such a good point. And I think, that can really obviously relate to any platform, is just trying to be, oftentimes just, okay, am I actually engaging? And you even mentioned on your TikTok, you're like, yeah, I am posting and creating more, but you're like, I'm also making sure that I'm actually engaging with some other content as well. So that's not
Yeah.
just like, okay, here's my stuff, guys. See you later.
Right. And also to, you don't feel like you have to spend every waking moment on Instagram or TikTok, like as far as engagement and stuff like that. If you are just consistent, 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day on your lunch break, whatever it is, just scroll through, engage, and people will do that back for you too. So
Yeah, totally. I love that. Okay, that sounds amazing. And I'm just curious, so like if you were to say one thing that you want to leave with people, and then actually I realized I missed one question as well, but what's kind of one thing you want to leave with everyone here? I know a lot of people are wanting to be, watching this replay and things like that, and anyone who's here live, like what's kind of one thing that you're like, you know what? If you're a photographer, you're looking to grow, you're looking to get more bookings, like what's kind of your gold nugget?
yeah, I mean, I would say that if you are absolutely serious about making photography your full-time gig, then let us know because we're here. I mean, it's definitely, and also too, if you are looking to put in the hustle, the dedication, the hard work that goes along with that, then this would be such a fantastic opportunity for you. I think a lot of times, like people kind of feel like, oh, it's a get rich quick kind of thing, and you don't have to do any work. And it's like, no, you got to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you're just ready to make that next step, then we are here. We're ready to go. We are so ready to see your goals come to life. But just be prepared to work hard and to do good work too. So
Yeah, 100%. If you were to kind of guess, because obviously it is a little bit different for everyone, but I know you put in a ton of time. How much time would you say is recommended per week? If somebody were to join the program, wanting to make that jump to full-time, like how many hours per week would you say is needed or necessary?
um I think it would kind of depend on the topic that we are discussing for that
Yeah.
for that time, because a lot of things do, for example, like when we get to the website portion, your website is going to take a lot longer than doing, like some of your workflow stuff. It's gonna require a lot more of your time. But I would say maybe on average, like for the entire program, maybe 8 to 12 hours a week is what I would kind of guesstimate
Yeah.
would be a good range for everything. So, that's an hour to 2 hours per day. So,
Mhm. Totally. No, I
yeah.
think that's a really good amount. Oftentimes I'll even tell people a little bit more than that is required on the first call, because I also want to see, like, I've had somebody the other day that I chatted with and they said I don't have that, because I asked how long do you spend on your business right now, and she's like, well, I don't know, maybe like 2 hours a week. And I was like, okay, I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be difficult. I'm gonna say about like 15, and that is gonna be required. And she was like, now's not the time. I'm like, hey, that's
Yeah.
all right. I'm just gonna be transparent. There's gonna be a lot of different things on action plans and whatnot that we'd like to see happening. And, if you can't put the time in, then unfortunately the results just aren't gonna be there.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. Like you need to have a little bit of extra time that you can set aside every single week to focus on this, because if you aren't able to do the practices, the homework, you're not able to see those things like come to fruition, then it's just not going to happen.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say like you need to have a little bit of time set aside for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I would even argue that like in 2021, you put in more than 8 to 12 hours a week. Like I remember
Yeah.
you, 2 days after our meeting being like, done. I'm like, what the heck? How did you do that?
I know it was so crazy, but I mean, staying up late, like almost every single night, just trying to get things done because I wanted things to be implemented so bad. I wanted a workflow to already be in place so bad so I could start practicing it and just be ready to go for when I started getting inquiries. So it was just a
Yeah.
mind thing for me, just wanting everything to be done.
Totally. Yeah. That you're like, I'm gonna do what it takes, like stay up late, make sure that, you're just getting everything done. I was like, wow, like she's just crushing. I'm like, yeah, I could start giving a little bit more. Cause sometimes you have to read the room and realize that like you don't want to ever overwhelm somebody. Like that's the last thing I want to do with members is overwhelm them. And oftentimes people have a lot of other things they're juggling in life. It's not just, it'd be nice if we were just focused on that one thing, but the truth is, whether we're part-time or full-time, we still have a bunch of things to juggle in life. So it's like that cautious, okay, not overwhelming, but also recognizing that like we need to make sure we're getting results. So it's like, yeah, this kind of juggle, I guess, of back and forth,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that would be like kind of going back to your previous question as like my biggest tip. I will
Mhm.
add time management is a huge thing. Like
Right.
if you don't know how to do that, we can definitely help you figure that out. But setting aside time, again, reiterating that you can give 110% to everything that's pulling at you. So routine time management is key to success, hands down.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. And also as you're saying that again, I'm just like, man, I'm getting called out here tonight because that's something I can be way better at too. I oftentimes get caught up on a task that I'm like, this isn't even a big priority. Why am I so, hung up on this right now? I have way bigger priorities to be tackling, and I'll push it aside or make a sticky note or whatever and be like, that's a later problem. I don't need to worry about that right now. And then swing over to like, okay, the important stuff, like making sure that my marketing strategy is in place, making sure that I'm taking good care of my clients, that I'm actually doing the things that keep my business running and not getting caught up on like, I'm gonna, start this new thing or do this Canva template for 10 hours or whatever. And it's like, this isn't actually helpful to furthering my business, right? So
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So no, I think that's a really good point. Cool. Well, amazing. Love everything you shared here tonight, Kaitlin. And obviously it's just also fun chatting
Yeah.
and getting to hear your perspective on everything. Cause, obviously we communicate, but it's nice to get the word out there to the Facebook group here and just photographers in general. Anybody who's chiming in here, appreciate you guys for coming. I love doing interviews. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course. And it has been a long time since we've done one of these. So I was super excited when you asked if we wanted to do one again. I was like, absolutely. Like any
Yeah,
chance
yeah.
to get to chat, it's always fun. So
Percent. I'm like, it's been a hot minute since we did like an interview, so we need to do that. For people that are on here live or watching the replay or listening to this, where can people find you on social media?
yeah, so I can be found on Instagram, Facebook, at Foxbell Weddings. So that's Foxbelle Weddings with an S. And then I'm also on TikTok, but it's my personal account. But you can follow me if you like. It's because I'm on my TikTok game again. So
Yeah, you are.
yeah.
And tell us your TikTok handle as well.
Oh yeah. So it's Kate Kait dot Innes INESS. So that's my at for my TikTok, and I'm also on Instagram with that at as well. But and then in my personal Instagram, I also have a link to my business, like my Foxville Weddings page. So we're all kind of linked around everywhere. So
That's awesome. And the TikTok game is definitely there because there's fun recipes and all this good stuff. The recipes is oftentimes what catches my eye, but you do a
it's
lot
been
of
super fun.
fashion and get
Yeah.
ready with me and things like that too.
Yeah, I definitely do lifestyle. I do share photography on there as well. So it's just kind of a little bit of everything that happens in my life. Because photography isn't like the only thing in my life. So I just love to share a little bit of everything. So
Totally. And it's more, I think, kind of just that's more you. Like you're like, hey, this is my thing. I want to make sure that a little bit of everything is involved. And sometimes too, you'll be, doing different fashion things or like, hey, these earrings I got from Amazon. And I'm like, that is so cool. I need to get those. So you're influencing me.
that is so funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I even
Amazon
said
is
something
like my
about your
go-to.
like breakfast tacos the other day. I was like, oh man, such a good idea. I'm like, I saved that from Kaitlin. That looked so good.
It's so good. It's one of my go-tos. I mean, I have to watch it because it's like full of carbs, but I mean the protein's high, so I'm like, I don't mind it.
It cancels out. It's all good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, sweet. Well, everybody toss her a follow because I'm a bit biased because I think Kaitlin is very fun to follow, but I think you guys will enjoy it. So
Thanks,
very,
guys.
very fun content.
Thank you
So
to everyone who hopped on and who's watching the replay. We really appreciate you tuning in with us today.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I can guarantee we will do this again. So
For
if
sure.
people missed it, we'll definitely be doing this again. But other than that, enjoy your evening and I will see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye,
Cool.
Esther.
See you, Kaitlin.
Bye.